Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to be discussing my research protocol that I've undertaken at the start of 2019. Before we go through the entire protocol discussion, a few things I'd just like to highlight, such as the title, the aims, the objectives, hypothesis, research design, data analysis, and conclusion. The title of my task is the effects of two different methods of semen collection on stress levels in rams. The aim of the study is to determine and compare the stress levels associated with ejaculating rams using the traditional bipolar rectal ejaculator and the electroejaculator probe used in bulls and adapted in size to fit rams. Semen collection is very important in rams, especially for breeding soundness evaluations. There are, however, welfare concerns associated with the traditional method, as it involves restraining the animal on the ground and extruding the penis while applying an electrical current. By studying the effects of these two methods, we may better understand the stress levels involved and therefore possibly suggest a refined method of ejaculation with improved welfare conditions. The image below shows a electroejaculator probe that has been adapted for sheep. Key differences between the bull one is that, for example, is the size. The bull one is, of course, much larger. Another key difference between the traditional bipolar rectal ejaculator and the electroejaculator probe that has been adapted for sheep is that the traditional one stimulates the entire rectum, while the electroejaculator probe adapted for sheep has got only probes on the ventral portion and therefore will only stimulate the secondary sex organs. In terms of the objective, we want to examine the stress levels in rams under natural mating condition, examine stress levels in rams being ejaculated using the traditional bipolar rectal ejaculator, examine stress levels in rams being ejaculated using the electroejaculator probe that is being used in bulls but is now adapted for sheep. We want to determine if there are differences in stress levels between the two ejaculator methods, and we want to determine if refinement of the ejaculatory procedure is possible. Lastly, we also want to determine if welfare conditions can be improved. In terms of hypothesis, we believe that natural mating, of course, has normal stress levels, while the alternative would be that natural mating has abnormal stress levels. In terms of stress levels in rams being ejaculated using the traditional bipolar rectal ejaculator are abnormal, while the alternative hypothesis would be that stress levels in rams being ejaculated using the traditional bipolar rectal ejaculator are normal. Stress levels in rams being ejaculated using the electroejaculator probe used in bulls but now adapted for rams are abnormal, while the alternative hypothesis is that stress levels in rams being ejaculated using the electroejaculator probe used in bulls but now adapted for sheep are normal. Changes in stress levels between the two ejaculator methods are normal, while the alternative hypothesis is that changes in stress levels between the two ejaculator methods are abnormal. The null hypothesis for in terms of refinement of the ejaculatory procedure is not possible, while the alternative hypothesis is that refinement of the ejaculatory procedure is possible. And lastly, welfare conditions cannot be improved, while the alternative hypothesis would be that welfare conditions can be improved. So in terms of our research design, we believe that data will be collected using a prospective correlation study, which will involve a total of 30 rams. Data will then be evaluated for correlations to determine if possible refinement and welfare improvements are possible. A control group of 6 rams will be selected from the total for the prospective correlation study to serve as a natural basis. The sampling method used would be stratified sampling, and the idea is that we're going to have 3 groups. As mentioned before, the control group will have 6 rams. The first group will consist of 12 animals that will be testing the traditional bipolar rectal ejaculator, while the last group will also consist of 12 animals that will be testing the electroejaculator probe that has now been adapted for sheep. Of course, animals will be selected based on an inclusion-exclusion criteria for the study. The inclusion criteria will generally involve or generally be based on if the animal appears to be in good health, have a normal temperature, pulse, respiration, have normal genital conformation, and have no underlying conditions such as trauma or disease. In terms of the exclusion criteria, the ram is going to be in poor condition, have an abnormal TPR, have abnormal genital conformation, or have any underlying disorders such as maybe diseases or trauma. Of course, animals that show or express the traits from the exclusion criteria will not be included in the study, as these will of course skew the results. In terms of data's analysis, data will be described through numerical values for each of the categorical variables. We will then assess if there is a relationship between the different variables and if this relationship is linear or non-linear. We can then assess if there is a correlation between the variables and if this correlation is positive or negative. We can also use the coefficient of correlation to assess the strength of correlation. We will use analysis of variance ANOVA for comparison between groups. We will compare the heart rate, respiration rate, and cortisol levels between the different groups for the different ejaculatory methods. In conclusion, who actually really benefits from the study? Well, welfare is something that is generally overlooked within the working world of veterinary science, such as in the day-to-day task of carrying out a breeding soundness evaluation. However, if the findings from the study are indicative of reduced cortisol levels and therefore improved welfare conditions, we believe that methods that a refined method of ejaculation, which would be indicative since they would be reduced cortisol levels and therefore improve welfare, will actually be adopted by the veterinary and paraveterinary professionals that are in the field carrying out breeding soundness evaluations on a day-to-day basis, as you would have improved results in terms of ejaculation as well as improved welfare conditions. If there are any questions or queries that you may have, you're more than welcome to email me at ashlinvalan@gmail.com. Other than that, thank you very much.